From Bionic Commando's grappling hook to Mega Man stealing his enemy's powers, 8-bit games were full of great gimmicks. But in a sea of lookalike platformers, the only gimmick that I care about is Mr. Gimmick. That's right, today we're celebrating Yumetaro, the star of the 1992 SunSoft game Gimmick. Only released in Japan and Scandinavia, of all places, this obscure SunSoft platformer is more than just a hidden gem, because it's also one of the greatest 8-bit games ever made. It also has a phenomenal ending that you just have to see. To help celebrate this classic's 30th anniversary, I think it's time to show you why Mr. Gimmick is the absolute best. Turn back now if you don't want to know what happens next, because today we're going to spoil the story and ending for Gimmick on the Nintendo Famicom. This is Game Over, the early years. This is the story of a small green yokai named Yumetaro who's just minding his own business at the local toy store. He hides whenever a customer enters the store, blending in with the rest of the cute plush dolls. But luck was not on his side today, and Yumetaro is boxed up and sold to a middle-aged man who lives in a really big house. You see, the man's daughter is celebrating her birthday today and is overjoyed when she opens up the box and discovers her new friend. Yumetaro quickly becomes her favorite, taking up all of her time, something that ends up angering the rest of the toys. Knowing that something must be done, the rest of the toys band together in the night to take the girl to another dimension. Knowing that he's the only one that knows what happened, Yumetaro goes into full hero mode, jumps into the dimensional portal, and sets out on a short adventure to save the kidnapped girl. This is a fun little platformer that feels a bit like a cross between Mario and Kirby. The small green yokai throws stars and other items in an effort to survive the 6 stages and defeat the nefarious toys. Now, instead of having a deep story or anything like that, this is more of a travelogue. Yumetaro is spit out on a small island in the clouds where he explores a dam, gets sucked through a tube, locates the waterfall, and then battles this giant bug. This, of course, leads to our hero boarding a pirate ship and then going to battle with its very angry crew. Also, you ride this bird to this mast and then fight the blobby pirate boss. Our next stop is a forest full of insects and power-ups. One of those items is right here, but watch out, because there are a bunch of archers with their bows trained on Yumetaro. This leads to an intense scramble through an underground path that takes so long that it's actually dark when he comes out the other side. This turns out to be a good thing, because the boss only comes out at night, giving our little yokai a fighting chance. Okay, so where do we go from here? Obviously, our next stop is riding on the back of a dinosaur in order to visit the golden sands of the desert. I mean, it only makes sense. This is a challenging level that ends up being about climbing and fighting. You'll also need to snag this sword, but watch out for the fire below. The whole thing ends with you cracking an egg and fighting a newborn chicken. And no look now, because it wouldn't be an 8-bit platformer without a minecart level, and let me tell you, Gimmick does not disappoint. It also has this crane and a robot spider. It's just covering all its bases. Alright, so after traveling all around the island, Yumetaro finally gets to his destination, a massive tower in the distance. Even though it mostly takes place indoors, this ends up being one of the best and most enjoyable levels in the entire game. It's as if SunSoft has stolen all of my favorite Mega Man obstacles and just jammed them into one glorious level. It ends with a fight against this magician, but don't be fooled, because this is not the final boss. You see, if you manage to collect all 6 special items, the hidden 7th stage will float down to the island and show you the way to saving the kidnapped girl. It's in this floating castle where we meet up with the game's true villain, who at first is completely cloaked and wearing a mask with badass horns. Underneath that, though, is well, I guess it's just a regular dude? Actually, it's worse than that, because the main boss ends up being a fencer. Yumetaro goes on guard with his stars and defeats the evil fencer once and for all. And this is what happens next. Now, in case you're wondering, there is a second ending where our hero ends up failing to save the kidnapped girl. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like right now. Okay, that bad ending isn't very good, but that good ending is shockingly awesome. I mean, it has a daring rescue on an island floating over another floating island. Couple that with the duo's heroic jump back into our dimension, and you have one of the best 8-bit endings of all time. Oh, and the end theme is super catchy, and it makes me just want more Gimmick. Sadly, there was no more Gimmick. About the closest you get is a 2020 remake, which features redrawn graphics and a whole new ending. Of course, no matter which version you go with, you're in for a real treat. This truly is one of the best 8-bit platformers thanks to the imaginative level designs and the fun combat. I love how the levels are specifically constructed to take full advantage of your star weapon. This is just an expertly crafted platformer that is guaranteed to surprise you in every single level. Just give it a shot. I can't recommend it highly enough. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Game Over the Early Years. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes almost every week. In fact, we're going to be back on Monday with the most romantic episode that you've ever seen. I'm serious. You're going to fall in love all over again. Now, here's the question I have for you. What is your favorite hidden gem? I'm talking about a game that barely anybody knows or talks about. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week to look at some of the things the Electronic Arts gets right. No, seriously. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,